Hello, fifth graders. Welcome to our next math lesson video. Today's lesson is going to be covering Chapter 5, Lesson 3. The title of the lesson is Use Models to Divide with Two-Digit Divisors. The lesson itself is going to begin on page 251 in your math book. Now, with us doing this kind of social distancing that we're doing at this moment, the book's going to kind of show you a different way to do the division stuff. And when we get back together, I can kind of show you how to work that out. But I thought for the sake of this particular lesson, we're actually not going to use the models. We're going to be talking about just doing the straight division of two-digit divisors and the step-by-step process that goes along with doing the division. So in today's lesson, you're going to see problems that look like this one right here, where I have 156 and I want to divide that by 12. Okay, this first number in a division problem, this first number here is called the dividend. That's the actual technical term for the first number. Think of the dividend as this is the total number of items that I have. So let's say, for example, you have 156, pencils. If I had a total of 156 pencils, that would be the dividend. The dividend is what the total is. How many total pieces, how many total parts do you have? Then we're going to divide by 12. And the second number here, this is called the divisor. That's the technical name for this second digit here. It's divisor. Think of this as this is how many groups I'm going to put them in, or this is how many pairs I'm going to make. So if you were to make this into a word problem, it'd be like I have 156 pencils, and I want to put them into groups of 12. So then I might ask, how many groups could I make? So the 156 is your dividend, the 12 is your divisor. Now, when you go to divide, when you go to actually do the division, you're going to use this little division box. I'm sure that you probably have done this before, but I wanted to review it just to make sure we're all on the same page, how to do this and so on and so forth. Whenever you go to divide like this first number here, which is the dividend, this first number will always go inside the box. So the dividend is always going to go inside the box. Now, I'm not sure what you've learned in the past. I know sometimes people will teach students when you're dividing, the bigger number always goes in the box. And, for today's lesson, fifth graders, that's actually technically true. But I am letting you know right now, you're going to get into further mathematics, especially sixth grade, seventh grade, and so on and so forth, where sometimes the bigger number actually does not go in the box. What you do need to know is that this first digit, whatever the first digit is, the dividend, this number will always go inside the box. This divisor here, this second number, this is the one that actually goes on the outside. So I kind of modeled that over here where the dividend is in the box, the divisor is on the outside. And that's why today's lesson talks about two-digit divisors. So in today's lesson, this second number here is always going to be a two-digit number. And this is a number that should always go outside. So if I scroll down a little bit here, you should see that I took the 156 divided by 12. And what I did is I put it in that regular division box form that you're probably used to. So like I said before, the dividend always goes in the box. So the 156 is going to go inside the box. The 12, which is the divisor, that's the one that's going to go outside the box. Okay. And now I want to talk about the step-by-step process of doing the division in this box. Now I want you to take notice, fifth graders. Inside the box, there are 1, 2, 3 digits. There are 3 digits here. That means in your quotient, in your answer up here, you should have 3 digits up here as well. Now, some of these digits might be 0, and that's okay. But you can't forget to put the digits up here. All right. I think that'll help you with your division process. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these one at a time. I'm going to take this 1 and this 5 and the 6. I'm going to divide them all by 12. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 12 and I'm just going to look at the 1 only. I'm not going to look at the 56 yet. Just imagine for a moment that 56 isn't there. And I want to know how many times can 12 go into 1? Now be careful. I didn't ask how many times 1 can go into 12. I asked how many times can 12 go into 1? Well, Mr. Johnson, 12 is bigger than 1, so it can't. Exactly, it can't. 12 is bigger than 1. So a lot of times, especially when you're starting to first learn how to divide, what we'll do is we're going to say, you know what, it can't do it all, so we're going to go ahead and put a 0 up here. I'm going to put the 0 right over the 1. I'm not going to put the 0 over here. I'm putting the 0 right above the 1. Okay? And then whatever number you have right here, you need to multiply this number by the divisor. So I put a 0 here. I said, how many times can 12 go into 1? It can't happen. So I put a 0 here. Now I want to take 0 times 12. Well, hopefully we know that anything times 0 is 0. So 0 times 12 is 0. I'm going to put that multiplication right below the 1. And then I'm going to subtract just these two numbers. So I'm taking the 1 minus the 0. So 1 minus 0 is 1. So I started with a 1, and I still finished with a 1. So this didn't change at all. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this next number here, this next, which is a 5, and I'm going to bring that 5 straight down with that 1. So I brought the 5 straight down, okay? And now the number changed from a 1 to a 15, okay? And I'm going to do the same thing I did just a minute ago. I'm going to take a look at this 12 and say, how many times now can this 12 here go into 15? Okay, well now this one's it's getting a little easier because I know that 12 times 1 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. 24 is way too big. So that means it's only going to go in there once. So I'm going to go ahead and put a 1 here. And like I did a minute ago, whatever number I put up here, now I'm going to multiply this number, this 1, by the number that's out front, the divisor. So I'm going to take 1 times 12, and 1 times 12 is 12. So I'm going to go ahead and put that 12 down right below the 15. I'm lining up my digits to make sure that I'm subtracting correctly. And then I just subtract. 5 minus 2 is 3. All right. And then 1 minus 1 is 0. You can put the 0 there if you want to. You don't have to. Now I have 3. Now before I start bringing down the next number, before I start bringing that 6 down, one good thing to do, fifth graders, is to check, is this number here that I wrote, is it smaller than the number out front? After you subtract, if this digit actually is not smaller than the number that's out front, that means that this digit that you wrote here is not big enough, and we may have to go back and change it. But for right now, we know 3 is definitely smaller than 12, so now I can keep going forward. Now I'm going to take this 6, I'm going to bring this 6 all the way down, and now the 3 becomes a 36. And now I'm going to ask, how many times now, go back to the divisor, how many times can 12 go into 36? Well, we may have to do a little multiplying on there, but 12 times 3 is exactly 36. So I'm going to go ahead and put a 3 here. And then again, I'm going to multiply. 3 times 12. 3 times 12 is 36. Okay. And now I'm going to subtract those two numbers. 36 minus 36 is 0. So it looks like I have 0 as a remainder. So that means then my answer is 13. Now notice in my answer here, I have 1, 2, 3 digits in my answer. And one of the digits was 0, and that's okay. But my answer is 13. Now in your division today, fifth graders, when you finally bring that last digit down, in today's lesson, you should get 0 as a remainder. If you bring this last digit down and then you do some sort of subtracting, if you do not get a 0 here, that probably means that somewhere here we probably messed up on our subtraction, or maybe we messed up on our multiplication. So we're going to have to go back and check. So what I'm saying is you shouldn't get like 3 left over and we're going to do 13 remainder 3. You're not going to get any of that today. All of your answers today should be nice, solid, whole numbers. Okay. Let's take a look at a couple of more problems here. A lot of the problems you're going to see today are written like this. 682, and you're going to divide by 22. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to make that division box. Okay. So we'll go ahead and make that division box. All right. Now remember, the first number, the divisor, 682, this is the number that's going to go inside of my division box. So 682 is going to go right here. The divisor, which is 22, that's the number that's going to go outside, out front, okay? Now, I would make the recommendation, fifth graders today, that if you're going to do these divisions, I recommend using a separate sheet of scratch paper to do your division. That way you've got plenty of room to do your division. Sometimes when you try to do your division on those little sheets that they give you for Envision, it's really small, it's crammed in there, it's hard to read. I think sometimes we're more likely to make a mistake. If you look back at my previous problem here, I mean, look how much room it took me just to do the subtraction here, okay? So I strongly encourage you today to do the problems, do the work on a separate sheet of paper. I think it's going to help you. Okay, so now the first thing I'm going to do, again, there's 1, 2, there's 3 digits here. That means in my answer, I should have 3 digits up here in my quotient. And I'm going to do it one at a time. I'm just going to look at the 6. I'm going to ignore the 8 and the 2 right now. Say, how many times can 22 go into 6? Well, Mr. Johnson, 22 is bigger than 6. It can't. You're right. So that means it's going to be a 0. It goes 0 times 22, which is 0. Subtract. And 0 minus 6 is 6. Okay. Is this number smaller than the number out front? Is 6 smaller than 22? Yes, it is. Now let's go ahead and bring down the 8. Okay. And the next thing we do is how many times can 22 go into 68? All right. So we're going to have to go through our multiplication facts of 22. So 22 times 1 is 22. 22 times 2 is 44. 22 times 3 is 66. And that's really close. So I think this is going to be a 3. Okay. So 3 times 22 is 66. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract that. And so I have 8 minus 6, which is 2. And then 6 minus 6 is nothing, which is a 0. Is 2, now before we bring the next number down, is 2 smaller than 22? Yes, it is. It is. 2 is definitely smaller than 22. That means now I can bring down my next number, which is a 2. And now I'm going to say, how many times can 22 go into 22? Well, Mr. Johnson's the same number, which means it's going to go in there just once. And 1 times 22. So I go ahead and take my 22. 1 times 22 is 22. Subtract 22 from 22. My answer is going to be 0. Again, notice that my answer here, I brought down the last number. After I subtracted, my last number was the 0, which means this answer is going to be 31. Okay, so now over here, I have 143 divided by 11. You tell me. I'm going to draw the division box. You tell me which one of those numbers is going to go inside the box. Is it the 11? No, hopefully you said no. The number that goes in the box is this dividend, the first number, 143. So I'm going to go ahead and put 143 inside the box, and I'm going to put 11 outside the box. Again, there's 1, 2, 3 digits in my box. That means there should be 3 digits up here in my answer. So I'm just going to do it one at a time. I'm going to look at that 1, ignore the 4 and the 3 for right now. How many times can 11 go into 1? 11 can go in 1. Well, just 0 times. That's it. So 11 times 0 is 0. Go ahead and take that. Subtract 1 minus 0 is 0. Okay. Now see what I did? I messed up right there. So this is a very common mistake. A lot of people will do this, and all of a sudden they bring down the 4, like, wait a minute, it doesn't work, Mr. Johnson. Because you notice my mistake was that 1 minus 0 is not 0. Okay. My mistake was 1 minus 0 is 1. So we want to make sure and be very careful. It's just that easy to sometimes make a mistake on this. Now, is 1 smaller than 11? Yes, it is. Now I can bring the 4 down. Okay. And now the same thing we do. How many times can 11 go into 14? Well, I know that 11 times 1 is 11. 11 times 2, I think, is 22. That's going to be too big. So I'm going to put 1 here. 1 times 11. So 1 times 11 is 11. I'm going to go ahead and subtract. And this is going to be 3. 4 minus 1 is 3. 1 minus 1 is 0. Is 3 smaller than 11? Yes, it is. That means now I can bring the next number down, which is going to be a 3 here. And then I say, how many times can 11 now go into 33? Noticing I'm always going back up to this divisor. How many times can 11 go into this number down here? Well, it's going to be exactly 3, because I think 11 times 3 is exactly 33. Okay. So I subtract those. Looks like I got 0 as my answer, which it is. So my final answer is 13. Okay. Let's do some more examples here. Let's say I have 182. I want to divide that by 13. So again, I want to draw my division box. Okay. Which number goes inside the box? Now that first number does, right? That dividend, this 182. So I'm going to go ahead and put 182 inside the box. Okay. 13 is going to go outside the box. Now there's 3 digits here. That means we probably should have 3 digits up here somewhere in my answer. So then I'm going to take 13. How many times can 13 go into 1? 13 can go into 1 0 times. So you're noticing, 5th graders, that all the examples you've done so far, The first time when you put this number in here, it looks like the first time is always going to be a 0. And you're going to start noticing that over and over and over again, I think, in your lesson for today. 1 minus 0 is 1. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring the 8 down. Okay. Now how many times can 13 go into 18? 13 can go into 18 just once, because I think 1 times 13 is exactly 13. So I'm going to take 1 times 13, which is 13. Now subtract. 8 minus 3 is 5. Okay. And then is 5 smaller than 13? Yes, it is. So that means we're going to bring the 2 down. Okay. So then how many times can 13 go into 52? Now, sometimes when you get to this, fifth graders, you may have to do a little trial and error. Like, for example, if you're not exactly sure, some people say, you know what, Mr. I'm going to try a 3. All right. I'm going to try a 3. So we go 3 times 3, which is, and sometimes you may just, over on the side sheet of paper here, you might actually just write, well, what is 13 times 3? Don't be afraid over on the side to try to see if it'll work. 3 times 3 is 9, and 3 times 1 is 3. 39? You know, that could work, but let's go ahead and 39 here and see what happens. If I do 39, all right, so this will become, this becomes a 4 because I have to borrow, and I make that a 12. 12 minus 9 is 3. And then 4 minus 3 is 1. Oh, wait a minute, Mr. Johnson, this number here is not smaller than the number out here. Like I said before, fifth graders, if you run across this problem where this number, if it's the exact same number, or if this number is bigger than the number, that means the 3 was not big enough. That means I have the wrong number here. You'd be surprised how many times I see, oh, well, then I'm going to go ahead and just add on another 1 because 1 times 13 is 13. But do you see how this doesn't make any sense? How many times can 13 go into 182? It can't go in there 131 times. So when you subtract, if this number is not smaller than here, that means that this 3 was not big enough. So what I have to do is, again, I'm going to go ahead and erase this because that was my work from before. That means I'm going to go ahead and erase my 3 because that means 3 is not big enough. That means I got to erase all this work here. You know, doing this with a pencil is always going to be a lot better. You know, there's a little trial and error, and that's okay. If you want to resubtract that, this was a 5, and bring the 2 down. Well, I already noticed that 3 was not quite big enough. I'm going to go ahead and try 4 this time, okay? Again, how many times can 4 go in 4 times 13? And again, over on your sheet of paper, if you're not sure, just over on the side real quick, go ahead and just do 13 times 4. 4 times 3 is 12. Carry the 1. 1 times 4 is 4 plus 1, 5. Oh, it's exactly 52. All right, so 4 times 13 is exactly 52, which is the number that I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and put my 52 down here. Subtract. 52 minus 52 is 0. Mr. Johnson told me I should get zeros down here, and I do. So that means my final answer is 14. Okay. Now, in some problems, it is possible that maybe the first 2 numbers are going to be zeros. And I think this one's going to be exactly like that. So I'm going to go ahead and put the 342 inside my curvy box here. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the 38 out front. Okay. And once again, it's fifth graders. There's 3 digits here, right? That means in my answer here, there should be 3 digits there as well. So if I do this one at a time, how many times can 38 go into 3? Well, I'm noticing, Mr. Johnson, there's a theme. That first number is always a 0. And you're right. 0 times 38 is 0. I'm going to go ahead and subtract that. 3 minus 0 is 3. Okay. Now, is 3 smaller than 38? Absolutely it is. So bring the 4 down. How many times can 38 go into 34? It's still too small. So in this particular situation, I'm going to put yet another 0. So 0 times 38 is still 0. Okay, so I subtract that and I get 34. All right, now I have to bring the other 2 down. Now I got to figure out how many times can 38 go into 342. And this is a lot of times where students will kind of start panicking. I don't know, Mr. Johnson, it's a really big number. Well, let me help you out a little bit with this particular problem. You will only put a single digit in here at a time, okay? So the numbers that you could put up here is anywhere from 0 through 9. You are never going to put a 10 in here. You will never put a double digit in here at a time. It's going to be a single digit every single time. So that means, fifth graders, that the biggest number you can put in here, is 9. And sometimes when you get big numbers like that, you may have to try doing something. How about we do 38 times 38 times 38 times 8. Okay. Well, here, 8 times 8 is 64. And already we notice, you know what, Mr. Johnson, I don't think this is going to work. Because right now the last digit is a 4, and I need the last digit to be a 2. So already you're probably realizing that it's probably not big enough. So if we go ahead and keep, multiplying, 8 times 3 is 24 plus 6, that's 30, okay? And again, I don't know that necessarily that's going to be big enough, okay? Well, that didn't work, and that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and 8 wasn't big enough, so how about if I try 9 then? If 8 wasn't big enough, I'm going to get rid of that 6 too, so it doesn't get us all bogged down. If 8 doesn't work, then let's try 9, okay? Let's do 38 times 9. 9 times 8. 9 times 8 is 72. Oh, hey, this is looking good so far because I need to have a 2 at the end. Let's go ahead and put a 7 here. 9 times 3 is 27. If I take 27 plus 7, that gives me 34. And look at there, I got the exact answer that I'm looking for. So then how many times can 38 go into 342? That answer is going to be 9. And I already did my multiplication over here, which is 342. And I'm going to go ahead and subtract that, and those become 0. Again, I have 0. So this answer here is just 9 as my answer. Okay, so a couple key things today, 5th grade, remember. This first digit, it's called the dividend, always goes in the box. Second digit is the divisor, always goes out front. However many numbers there are in the dividend, there needs to be that numbers in the answer. Now, do you need to have these first 2 zeros there? No, you don't have to. I'm just kind of showing you that technically there are 3 digits there. And also in your lesson for today, after you bring this last number down and you subtract, you should get a 0 here. If you don't get a 0 here, that means one of these numbers is not big enough. We have to go back and take a look, okay? Here are 2 more problems that we have real quickly. 210 goes in the box. All right, 15 goes out front. How many times can 15 go into 2? Can't do it. Go ahead and put a 0 there. 0 times 15 is 0. Go ahead and subtract. That's 2. All right, now I'm going to bring the 1 down. How many times does 15 go into 21? Well, I think that's a 1 because 15 times 1 is exactly 15. 15 times 2 is 30. That's too big, so I need to subtract this. That becomes a 1. This becomes an 11. 11 minus 5 is 6. And then 1 minus 1 is 0. Is 6 smaller than 15? Yes, it is. That means I'm safe. I can safely bring the next 0 down. How many times can 15 go into 60? Well, again, if you're not sure, don't be afraid to come over here and multiply. I'm just going to try to guess maybe a 4. Okay, because 5 times 4 is 20. Bring the 2 up here. 4 times 1 is 4 plus 2 is 60. Oh, there it is. I got exactly 60. So it looks like 4 is my answer. 4 times 15 is exactly 60. And if I put that in there and subtract, 0 is my answer. And so my answer here is going to be 14. 391 goes inside the box. So I'm going to put the 391 down, draw my little division box. The 23 goes out front. How many times can 23 go into 3? Can't do it. Noticing that first time, and be careful. That kind of looks like a 6 a little bit. So be careful. Make sure your zeros look like zeros. If you go too fast, you might end up writing down the wrong number, and then you're going to get a wrong answer. You don't want to do that. So 0 times 23 is 0. Subtract those, we got 3. Bring the 9 down. How many times can 23 go into 39? I think that's just going to be once only, because I think 23 times 2 is 46, which is way too big. So 1 times 23 is 23. So I subtract that. 9 minus 3 is 6. And then 3 minus 2 is 1. And now I'm going to bring this 1 down as well. And again, the next step is, how many times can 23 go into 161? Again, you may just have to do some trial and error. You may just have to try a couple numbers. Maybe try maybe try 6. Let's say I'm going to say 23 times 6. Remember, since this was the last number you brought down, you want to make sure you get a number that's exactly 161. So if I do 3 times 6, I think that's 18. And already it doesn't look good, does it? Because there's an 8 here. There should be a 1 there. 6 times 2 is 12 plus 1 is 13. That's 138. It looks like I'm getting close. 138 is kind of close to 161. So maybe 6 might be a close answer. I don't think I want to go down. I think I want to go higher, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and do 23 times 7. I'm gonna try 7 and see how that works. 7 times 3 is 21, carry that 2. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 2 is 16. Oh, there it is. I got exactly 161. So how many times does 23 go into 161? We already established here it's 7, so we'll put a 7 here. And I've already done the multiplication over on the side, so that's 161. And when I subtract, I get 0 for my answer. So the answer to this problem is going to be 17. Okay? All right, so your assignment for today, 5th graders, you see is going to be on 2 pages again. Again, no word problems whatsoever. You're looking at page 253, and you're looking to do numbers 3 through 12. Now, on these pages, they're going to have these weird box-looking things that look like this, and it'll say how many 10s are there up here, how many 1s. Just ignore the boxes for, we'll talk about that when we get back together. Just ignore those boxes. All I want you to do is look for these division problems right here, and then just practice using this division model for today, okay? So once again, you see those weird boxes, cross them out. You don't have to do anything with them. Just do regular division. We'll talk about when we get back together, okay? So on page 253, you're gonna do numbers 3 through 12. And on page 255, you're gonna do numbers 1 through 8, okay? If at any time you have any questions on the lessons, 5th graders, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here to help you the best that I can. I wish you good luck on your lessons for today. If you need a review of everything we talked about, please go back and look at the lesson, watch this video again, and ask me questions if needed. All right, and we'll see you next time.